During the 7th and the 8th century, a clan of people emerged who called themselves Rajputs, meaning sons of king. They belonged to the warrior class or Kshatriyas and hailed from Rajasthan and other parts of central India. The Rajputs belonged to three kinds of vanshas or ancestries: Suryavanshi, Chandravanshi, and Agnivanshi. Under Agnivanshi were the clans of Pratiharas, Solankis, Parmars, and Chauhans. Amongst themselves, they established kingdoms in Marwar, Ujjain, Malwa, Kannauj, Ajmer, and Gujarat. The Rajputs were known for their loyalty and fierce courage. Women were also trained in the art of war, and they did not hesitate to go into the battlefield if their men were outnumbered. However, if the king and all his men were killed in the battle, the Rajput women preferred to commit suicide rather than allow themselves to be taken as prisoners. This ritual was known as Johar. One of the most prominent Rajput kings was Prithviraj Chauhan, born in 1168 AD to the king of Ajmer, Someshwar Chauhan. Adept at military tactics, he could hit a moving target by merely listening to the sound. When he was just 13, his father died and he ascended the throne. Prithviraj was a romantic, chivalrous, and extremely fearless person. His kidnapping of the princess Sayogita or Samyukta is legendary. She was the daughter of his enemy Jayachandra of Kannauj, and she loved him as passionately as he loved her. Her father arranged her Swayamvar but did not invite Prithviraj Chauhan. However, Prithviraj bravely rode in and abducted her and sped away. Jayachandra's soldiers chased him but could not catch him. He got away at last and married his beloved. The story is narrated in the epic poem Prithviraj Raso, composed by Prithviraj's court poet and friend Chand Bardai. In the meantime, he expanded his empire further and controlled most of Rajasthan and Haryana and unified the Rajputs against Muslim invasion. In the meantime, a Muslim conqueror named Muhammad Shahabuddin Gori or Muhammad Gori was capturing nearby capitals in a well planned military invasion. He captured places like provinces like Multan, Uncha, Gujarat, and Punjab. As he covered more areas, he became a threat to Prithviraj's territory. Prithviraj started to prepare for a battle. The two clashed at the first battle of Tarain, which is now in the Karnal district of Haryana. Prithviraj defeated him with his massive army of loyal soldiers. As Ghori retreated, Prithviraj was advised to attack the retreating army. The noble king refused, and as it went against the Rajput code of conduct. The noble king refused, and it went against the as it went against the Rajput code of conduct. This proved to be his undoing, as Ghori soon came back with his armies for a second attack. This time, during the second battle of Tarain, Prithviraj was defeated and captured. It is said that he was tortured and his eyes were pierced with red hot iron rods. Thereafter, in an archery conquest, he displayed his archery skills by hitting targets in spite of being blinded. He did this without a single error, and Gori is said to have praised him for this feat. Hearing his voice, Prithviraj is believed to have aimed an arrow in his direction that killed his enemy. In 1122 AD, Prithviraj Chauhan died, ending an era of profound bravery, courage, and morality. Maharana Pratap, Bappa Rawal, Rana Sanga, Yashwant Singh, and Rani Padmini have made an indelible mark on the pages of Indian history. Maharana Pratap, the ruler of Mewar, is synonymous with the Rajput valor, and chivalry. At a time when all the Rajput states were allying with Akbar, Mewar remained independent. Furious, Akbar attacked Mewar in the famous Battle of Haldikati. Pratap lost to Akbar but did not surrender and continued his combats until the end of his life. Gradually, the powers of the Rajputs dwindled. They were no match for the Mughals who invaded later. When the British arrived in India, the Rajput states became colonies, thus ending the reign of the Rajputs forever. India's flourishing international trade and reputation as the only known source of diamond mines in the world attracted many invasions from outside. For centuries, the North Indian kingdoms resisted the invasion of the Arab Turks, but soon small Islamic empires, all or sultanates, were establishing were established in several parts of the north. Even before that, Muslim trading communities existed in the coastal southern India, especially Kerala. They had arrived from Arabia in small numbers through the Indian Ocean. In the 12th and 13th century, the Arabs, Turks, and Afghans invaded parts of North India and established the Delhi Sultanate in the former Rajput region. The establishment of the Sultanate led to a vast change of culture. An Indo-Muslim culture evolved, and its effects were seen in monuments, architecture, music, literature, and religion. It is said that the language Urdu was a result of a mixture of Sanskrit, Persian, Turkish, and Arabic. The Delhi Sultanate was the only Indo-Islamic empire to place a woman on its throne, the famous Razia Sultan. Qutbuddin Aibak, who was a general in the Ghori army, established the Delhi Sultanate. Later on, Shamsuddin Iltutmish established a Turkish kingdom in Delhi, which enabled the future sultans to conquer kingdoms in their different directions. Over the next few centuries, the Delhi Sultanate has extended its way to Bengal and Deccan. In the meanwhile, a Turkish Mongol conqueror named Timur launched a campaign to invade India. He attacked Sultan Nasiruddin Mahmud of the Tughlaq dynasty at Delhi. The Sultan's army were defeated, and Timur entered Delhi, and the city was destroyed and left in ruins. With this, the Delhi Sultanate came to an end, and next came the Mughal Empire. The founder of the Mughal Empire was Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur, a descendant of Timur and Genghis Khan. Muslim armies comprising of Mongol, Turkish, Persian, and Pashtun warriors invaded India under his leadership. In the legendary First Battle of Panipat in 1526, Babur defeated the last of the Delhi sultans, Ibrahim Shah Lodi. Though Babur had only 12,000 men, were well trained. The Sultan had more than 100,000 men, but Babur had the advantages of having a superior cavalry tactics, firearms, and guns. He was the first Mughal emperor. Babur went on to crush the Rajputs, Rana Sanga of Chittor, and achieved many other military victories. But just 5 years into his reign, he died. His biggest legacy was a set of descendants who fulfilled his dream of an Islamic empire in India. Babur's successor was his son Humayun. At 12, his father had appointed him a governor of Badakhshan, where he proved his administrative skills and bravery. However, when he ascended the throne, it was realized that he lacked his father's uh, intelligence and his father's clever and crafty mind. Even though he was a good soldier, he became addicted to the luxuries of the palace and did not take much action against the Rajputs and Afghan nobles who were conspiring against him. His brothers too were conspiring against him, but Humayun refused to believe it and gave them positions of power. One of the biggest threats was from the Afghan general Sher Shah Suri, who had served under Babur. Humayun thought Sher Shah had only a few tribesmen and no army, and so he ignored him. In reality, Sher Shah had gathered an impressive number of Afghans who were all fiercely loyal and well trained. He continued to gather forces and expand his territories. Humayun finally understood his threat and marched to Tunar, Sher Shah's territory, where the latter was while the latter was away at Gaur. But in spite of the absence of his leader, his men fought fiercely and Humayun had to retreat. Sher Shah managed to capture the Mughal lands of Bihar and Jaunpur, and a humiliated Humayun clashed with Sher Shah two more times. The first one was at Chausa, where he suffered a humiliating defeat and barely escaped with his life. The next time was at Kannauj, and this was the final blow. Humayun's reign was over, and Sher Shah captured Delhi and Agra, establishing the Afghan rule. Betrayed by his brothers, Humayun fled to Persia. For the next 15 years, he lived in exile. During this time, his wife gave birth to a son, Akbar. After the death of Sher Sasuri, the regime began to unravel as his successor was unable to recreate the magic of Sher Shah's rule. On realizing this, Humayun gathered an army with the help of the then Persian king and marched towards Delhi. The next year, he captured Delhi along with Kabul and Kandahar. His days of exile were over, and he ascended the throne at Agra after the defeat of Sikandar Suri, Sher Shah's successor. A changed man, Humayun devoted himself to his state. His biggest achievement at the time was in the sphere of painting. He recruited several Persian painters to come to India, and they laid the foundation for Mughal art and style that has gone down in history. From then on, there was a fusion of Persian and Indian styles. But his reign was short-lived. In a tragic accident, he fell from his library steps and died on the spot. His son Akbar, who went on to become one of the greatest Mughal kings, succeeded him. Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar. Jalal was born while his parents were in exile in Persia and thus grew up in the Afghan countryside. His whole youth was spent in learning to fight and hunt. He did not have any interest in learning to read or write. As it later turned out, he was the only Mughal emperor who, though was illiterate, had a great thirst for knowledge. When Humayun died, Akbar was away with the military commander Bairam Khan in Punjab campaigning for his father. He was only 13 at the time. He was sent for and crowned king hurriedly. Bairam Khan was made the regent and the boy was too young. On Akbar's behalf, Bairam Khan led many campaigns to expand the kingdom. As soon as Akbar came of age, he used his own judgment and skills for leadership. One of his enemies was waiting for an opportunity to defeat the teenager who ruled the Mughal emperor. Hemu, the Hindu minister of the Afghan prince Adil Shah, attacked the kingdom of Delhi. Hemu emerged victorious and crowned himself ruler of Delhi. A furious Akbar launched an attack into the second battle of Panipat. The two armies fought valiantly, and it looked like the Mughals would lose. Just when Akbar was Despairing, despairing, an arrow hit Hemu's eye and he fainted. His men thought he was dead and laid down their weapons and surrendered to Akbar. Akbar became king once more. As Akbar grew older, he continued to annex more land to his empire. In the north, Akbar had conquered the Indo-Ganges basin, Kashmir, and Panipur and Afghanistan, Gujarat and Sindh in the west, Bengal in the east, and part of Deccan is extended till the Godavari River in the south. He was king of all these lands very soon. Not much later, Baran Khan betrayed Akbar. Bad advice made him revolt against Akbar, and he was subsequently killed. Although Akbar was still a very young emperor, he showed tremendous uh, he he showed tremendous skill, and he was shrewd and organized. He got rid of all his ministers as he knew they were too ambitious and would covet his position. He centralized the administration of the empire and ruled wisely. He removed restrictions on religion and allowed his subject to practice the religion of their choice without fear of being persecuted. His religious tolerance took him one step further. He had studied various religions and had come up with the idea of merging the teachings of Islam, Hinduism, Christianity, and Zoroastrianism. Akbar poured a lot of energy into this new form of religion that he called the Din Ilahi, or the divine faith. He made himself the prophet and the head of the religion. Though he was keen on the Nilahi, the idea never took wing, mainly because of the tenets of the new religion were not laid down clearly. Moreover, many considered this to a threat to Islam. In fact, even his half-brother Hakim, the ruler of Kabul, rebelled against him. He felt Akbar was filling people's mind with foolish notions and encouraging them to abolish Islam. Hakim sent to a fatwa to all Muslims, urging them to revolt. But Akbar led an army against him and defeated him, thus taking over Kabul. He solved the problems of rebellion from the Rajputs with a very simple policy. He gave the defeated kings positions of power and honor in his government and army. In fact, his first wife was Rajput Princess Jodhabai, made famous in the epic 2008 great masterpiece movie Jodha Akbar by Hrithik Roshan and Aishwarya Rai. In this way, he encouraged Muslims to marry Rajputs, and that is why the Rajputs never rebelled against his rule, and as they did against other Mughal rulers. Akbar was a master at riding, polo, and swordsmanship. He was undeniably brave and a brilliant general. He was fair to his subjects, and he abolished unfair taxes on non-Muslims. A number of social reforms also took place under his reign, like the abolishment of the child marriage, the permission for widows to remarry, and removal on the ban of building new temples. Although illiterate, he surrounded himself with scholars like Abul Fazl, Birbal, and Tansen, who formed the part of the nine gems or Navratnas. These were the nine famous personalities from different walks of life. He always encouraged writers, musicians, painters, and translators. He took keen interest in religion, philosophy, music, poetry, history, and painting. He had an impressive collection of books and manuscripts. He had the Hindu works like the Atharvaveda and Ramayana and the Mahabharata translated. Whichever city he ruled from became the center of, of art, learning, and culture. He encouraged Persian culture especially and included a lot of its aspects in India. One of his biggest accomplishments lie lies in his commitment to splendid architecture. Proof of this is the famous city of Fatehpur Sikri. It was named after his conquest of Gujarat. Situated 26 miles west of Agra, the royal city was his new capital and had elaborate palaces, sprawling courtyards, beautiful pools, tombs, and a famous mosque. Spread over the length of 2 miles, the city was constructed from red sandstone by a big group of masons and stone carvers who were given a free hand to build. The style that evolved is known as Akbari. A famous palace was built for Jodhabai. Near this palace was the famous Hawa Mahal, or the Palace of Winds. This palace overlooked beautiful gardens laid out in a distinct style. Another of his crowning architectural achievements was the mosque, the Jama Masjid. A huge courtyard was built for the congregation and stonecutters mosque, one of the oldest places of worship at Sikri. The architecture of the whole site was a blend of Hindu and Muslim styles. The entire palace complex was adorned with exquisite carvings, lattice and pierced stone screens, wall paintings, canopied roofs, carved brackets, and pilasters. Akbar had three sons, Jahangir, also known as Salim, Murad, and Danial. The last two died very early, and only Jahangir survived. The father and son were constantly at conflict, and they disagreed on many things. In 1605, Akbar fell seriously ill and died a slow death. His 40-year reign brought the east, west, north, and central India, along with parts of south, under one empire. His rule was a glorious one, and besides the wealth of learning and culture that existed during the time is immensely valuable. He was also much admired for his bravery and wisdom. Akbar loved his Akbar and his beloved wife Jodha had a son after losing many children in infancy. He was named Niruddin Salim Jahangir. Two more sons, Murad and Daniel, were born shortly thereafter. Jahangir was a great favorite in his father's court, thanks to his military skill and intelligence. His very first triumph was at the young age of 12, when he led a regiment of soldiers in Kabul and emerged victorious. At 16, he was made the the Mansabdar, which was the high military post commanding 12,000 men. But the peace did not last for long, as Akbar and Jahangir started to disagree on many issues. Jahangir was jealous of the attention his father paid to his favorite scholar Abul Faisal. The young prince soon started developing bad habits and started to drink heavily. By this time, he was married and had children, one of them being the future ruler Khurram. This child became Akbar's favorite grandchild, and this too bothered Jahangir. He was afraid that his father would favor Khurram over his eldest child Khusrau, who was the rightful heir. After a series of misunderstandings with his father, Jahangir finally marched to Allahabad. Here he declared himself king. A furious Akbar cut off all ties with him. Influenced by his friend, Jahangir blamed Abul Fazl for his father's hostility and ordered the scholar to be killed. Akbar was shattered by his friend's death. Finally, the father and the son came to their senses and were reunited. Akbar declared him his heir. Before Akbar died, he placed the crown on Jahangir's head. Although Jahangir had led an irresponsible life earlier, he now ruled wisely and well. He followed a policy of expansion and crushed several rebellions against the Mughal rule. He also released several prisoners of war. He was a great patron of art and learning. One of his great best measures to uphold the justice was the golden chain of justice. 60 bells were connected by a chain which hung outside the castle in Agra. Anyone with a grievance could pull the chain and be admitted to see the emperor. Jahangir was very tolerant of other religions like his father, especially because his own mother was a Hindu Rajput princess. One of his one of the wives of Jahangir was Merunisa, the wife of a slain rebel officer. He was captivated by her beauty and named her Noor Jahan, meaning light of the world. She involved herself in important matters of the state, and her stepson Khurram was always in conflict with her. The good times did not last long. A ruler named Mahabat Khan attacked Jahangir's empire and captured him. Thanks to Noor's plan, the Mughal king escaped, but it had taken a toll on his health, which had already deteriorated from excessive drinking. Jahangir now travelled to Kashmir to recover and recuperate. Here he found peace he so desired. It was in Kashmir's Dal Lake that he built the magnificent Shalimar Bagh for his wife. It was a sprawling garden with a number of terraces linked with a channel. Three lovely pavilions were built with black marble pillars and big halls. Finally, in 1627, Jahangir breathed his last. His son Khurram marched to Agra and took over the reins of the kingdom, imprisoning his stepmother Noor Jahan, in a beautiful mansion. Shah Jahan, or Khurram, as it was named at birth, is most remembered for his incredible contribution to the seven wonders of the world, the Taj Mahal. Even though he was the fifth child of Jahangir, he made his presence felt through his fighting skills and training. His father often sent him, even as a young child, on military campaigns. Thanks to his number of victories, Jahangir conferred the title of Shah Jahan, or the King of the World, on him. When he was a mere 15 years old, the young prince was walking in a bazaar when he spotted a young beautiful girl, Arjuman Banu. Instantly enchanted by her beauty, Shah Jahan begged his father to allow him to marry her. But Jahangir refused, ravishing his love story, and Shah Jahan was married off to a Persian princess. But he never forgot his first love. He courted her for 5 years until his father gave in. The two were married. The couple had 14 children together, one of them being the future king Aurangzeb. In a few years, Jahangir's health deteriorated, and his sons fought over the throne until Shah Jahan took over. When when he ascended the throne, he gave his wife a new title, Mumtaz Mahal, or the chosen one of the palace. Shah Jahan's reign was happy and prosperous. It was an era of riches, and the most precious gems were mined from India's soils, and they were literally trunks and trunks of emerald, sapphires, rubies, and diamonds, and all sorts of other treasures. Shah Jahan was immensely wealthy and built many palaces and mosques across the country. In fact, an inscription in gold on his throne says, "If there is a paradise on earth, it is here." But tragedy awaited the kingdom. In the fourth year of his reign, he set off to for to Burhanpur to quell a rebellion. Mumtaz was pregnant with the 14th child, insisted on going along. But while they camped at Burhanpur, she died after giving birth to a baby girl. Shah Jahan was devastated. His grief and sorrow knew no bounds. He returned home, put aside his royal robes, and shut himself up in his chambers. He refused to appear in public or take care of the state affairs. For 2 years, he stayed this way, showing no interest in ruling his empire. His only solace was in architecture and art. Finally, one day he decided that he would build a beautiful monument for his love, his dead wife, which such that has never been built and never would again be built. Thus began his dream of building the Taj Mahal, the jewel of India. The foundation was laid on the banks of the river Yamuna, near his palace in Agra. It is said that three architects from Persia, Italy, and France designed it. Skilled artisans appeared apparently brought from Baghdad on Constantinople and other Islamic centers built it. The Molosseum took almost 20 years to build, 20,000 men working hard day and night. The whole structure was made of marble brought from Jaipur and other precious metals and stones. The Taj stood majestically upon a platform, flanked on either side by beautiful mosques and minarets, and a huge speared, spired dome for a roof. Lush gardens with fountains spread almost to the foot of the Taj, and a pool strategically placed in front of the monument, reflecting its shimmering beauty. Dazzling gems were inlaid in white marble with quotations from the Quran inscribed on the main entrance. And within all these splendor lay the tomb of Mumtaz Mahal. Delicate screens surrounded her tomb, where light filtered through, giving it a dreamlike quality. Shah Jahan found peace here. His next plan was to build a black Taj Mahal across the river with a bridge connecting the two monuments. He wished that he would be laid to rest here, but the plan never materialized. Years passed in this manner, and his peaceful life came to an end. He fell ill, and his four sons started quarreling over the throne. There were bitter fights, and Aurangzeb emerged victorious. He overthrew his father and placed him under house arrest. Shah Jahan's only desire was to see the Taj Mahal every day. Accordingly, he was moved to the Agra fort, where he lay in a chamber that offered a view of the monument. His daughter, was assigned to serve Shah Jahan. For the next 9 years, he lay there, looked after by his daughter Jahanara. In every living moment, he would gaze at the Taj and remember the day of love and joy. Finally, old age and sickness overcame him, and he breathed his last. According to his wishes, he was buried alongside Mumtaz in the Taj. Their love became immortal and still lives on in the lovely stones of Taj Mahal. Aurangzeb was considered as the last great Mughal ruler. Born in 1618, he was the third son of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal. When he was only 16, his father gave him the post of the governor of Deccan. He moved to Kirki, which he renamed Aurangabad. In 1637, he married Rabia Durrani. In the meantime, Shah Jahan began to favor his eldest son Darasiko. Aurangzeb soon earned his father's disfavors and was dismissed from his post, but soon after he was made a governor of Gujarat, where he performed well and he was rewarded. By 1647, he was the governor of Balkh and Badakhshan, the present-day Afghanistan and Tajikistan, replacing his ineffective brother Murad Baksh. These areas had been under attack from rebels for a while, and Aurangzeb quelled them with his military skills. When he was appointed the governor of Multan and Sindh, he began a long battle in an effort to capture Kandahar from the Safavid army. But he failed, and once again he earned his father's anger. In 1652, he was once again appointed the Deccan governor. He began an intense campaign to expand the Mughal empire, but again stopped by his father and uh, eldest brother every time. 6 years later, Shah Jahan fell ill, and the sons began to fight over the throne. Aurangzeb defeated his elder brother Dara's army and took their father's father prisoner. Dara was condemned to death by his own brother. The other brothers too were defeated by Aurangzeb, and he took over the throne at Agra. Now began Aurangzeb's rule that lasted for 49 to 50 years. Although the earlier Mughal kings were tolerant of other religions, Aurangzeb was different. He enforced a strict Islamic law, the Fatwa-e-Alamgiri. Under this, he banned music and dance from his courts. He also ordered the destruction of images in art and architecture as Muslim law dictates. He destroyed many Hindu temples, prohibited religious meetings, and enforced the jizya tax on non-Muslims, which Akbar had removed. He also banned sati and the practice of forcing the widow to plan in the uh, uh, funeral fire of her husband. He forced many to convert to Islam as well. Aurangzeb also began to his earlier dream of expanding the kingdom. He extended the Mughal territories both in the northwest and northeast. Aurangzeb's massive army consisted of some 500,000 camp followers, 50,000 camels, 30,000 war elephants. He pushed into Punjab and Afghanistan and also tried to suppress territories owned by the Marathas in the west, who were led by Chhatrapati Shivaji. By this constant military campaigns were a, but this constant military campaigns were a drain on the treasury. As a result, the peasants of the kingdom had to pay heavy taxes. Thanks to his restrictive rule, he had many enemies, especially the Sikhs. When Aurangzeb insisted that all Kashmiri Brahmins be converted into Islam, hapless Kashmiris turned to Sikh Guru Tej Bahadur for help. But Aurangzeb refused to listen to his pleas and, instead insisted that Tej Bahadur himself convert to Islam. Upon his refusal, the Mughal had him executed. This triggered an open rebellion from the Sikhs. Aurangzeb's army continued to weaken under constant attacks. It was at this time that his new enemies, the Marathas, attacked him. The struggle with them lasted for 27 years. It was only when their leader Shivaji died in 1680 that there was a respite, but the relief was short lived. The Rajputs of Jodhpur and Mewar joined forces and rebelled against Aurangzeb. They declared themselves independent of his rule. Aurangzeb sent his son Akbar to quell the rebellion, not knowing that the latter would deceive him. Akbar declared him the king and soon had to flee to Deccan, where he allied with Shivaji's son Sambhaji. Aurangzeb then drove his own son into exile in Persia, from where he never returned. Later, Aurangzeb caught and killed Sambhaji and stopped his forces, but the decline of the empire had begun. Aurangzeb's political power was weak thanks to his complete focus on military matters. His provincial governors and generals became powerful and many declared themselves as independent rulers. Moreover, his harsh rule had alienated the Hindus and the peasants, who lived in utter poverty. Soon after, Soon after his death in 1707, the Mughal Empire ceased to be an effective force in India, but it officially came to an end in 1857 when Emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar was put on trial. It was then the Mughal Empire was completely wiped out. The Sikhs established their empire in the Mughal in the Punjab after the death of Aurangzeb. Charat Singh, who was the head of one of the Sikh clans, established his stronghold in Gujranwala in 1763. Maharaja Ranjit Singh was one of the most powerful of all Sikh rulers and ruled for over 40 years. Ranjit Singh, also known as the Lion of Punjab, he died of paralysis in 1839. After his death, the Sikh Empire was divided into small principalities looked after several Sikh Jagirdars. The rise of the Marathas was the main cause for the decline of the Mughals. The Marathas were of Indo-Aryan race who hailed from the present-day state of Maharashtra. The Marathas were in power from 1674 to 1818, and during the peak of their Maratha rule, uh, it covered a territory of around 250 million acres. The Marathas were skillful warriors and were fiercely possessive about their lands. The origins of the Marathas can be tracked back to an Ahmednagar general named Shahji, a Hindu Maratha. This was the time of Shah Jahan when the Deccan was controlled by three Muslim kingdoms of Ahmednagar, Bijapur and Golconda. The first was divided and a large portion went to the Mughals and the balance to Bijapur. Shahji joined the Bijapur court. He sent his wife and son Shivaji to Pune to look after his area. From a young age, Shivaji heard tales of courage and valor from his mother, Jijabai. She taught him that they belonged to a race that was noble and brave, and that they were meant to be kings. Shivaji grew up dreaming about an ideal nation. When he was just 16, he swore that one day he would establish a Hindu state and rule it. Very soon, he had gathered a band of fiercely loyal Maratha men and set about conquering the nearby lands. Their first triumph was the mountain fort of Torna near present-day Pune. Shivaji proclaimed himself governor, knowing that he would face the wrath of the Bijapur Sultan, Muhammad Adil Shah. He wrote him a message. The message convinced him that Shivaji had taken over Torna in the Sultan's best interest, and the people had not been paying their taxes. Unsuspecting, the unsuspecting Sultan accepted that, and the group continued to conquer areas along the Western Ghats and Konkan coast, using what is known as the guerrilla warfare. Shivaji's fighting skills and courage soon won the love of common people. When the Sultan realized he was becoming dangerously popular, he sent him a warning. But by then it was too late. Shivaji had the backing of the common people. Shivaji now wanted to expand his empire. The, the alarmed the alarmed Sultan sent a clever general Afzal Khan to curb the activities of Shivaji. Knowing that Shivaji was very crafty himself, the general decided to trick Shivaji and then kill him. Leading an army of 40,000 men, the general marched off. When Shivaji heard of the arrival, he sent a message requesting the general to meet him alone. Gleefully, Gleeful that an opportunity to kill Shivaji had presented itself, Afzal Khan agreed. He hid a dagger in his clothes and went to meet him. When he saw Shivaji, he embraced him, intending to stab and kill him. But before he could make the move, Shivaji made haste. With tiger claws attached to his finger, he dug them into Afzal Khan's stomach and killed him first. Afzal's army was defeated. This was said to be the beginning of the mighty Maratha power. When the Sultan of Bijapur died in 1656, Shivaji seized the opportunity to expand his empire. He went on to conquer a number of hill forts near Pune. Very soon, he had a large army and navy. He built many new forts and renovated several others. He was a fair and just ruler, and he never differentiated in terms of religion or caste in his army. Everybody was equal. He appointed ministers who handled different divisions like internal security, foreign affairs, finance, law, and justice, religious matters, and defense. Everything was well organized in his administration. He also introduced new systems in revenue collection. He reduced the power of the local landlords too, punishing those officials who harassed the people. His small kingdom came to be known as the Hindavi Swaraj, or the sovereign Hindu state. At last, his dream was being realized. His empire now stretched from atop in northwest India, now in Pakistan, to beyond Cuttack in East India. He was fiercely patriotic and encouraged his people to fight against the tyranny of the Mughals. The Mughal ruler Aurangzeb had been watching his progress. He sent his uncle Shashti Khan with a large army. Shivaji lost a large number of forts and areas to Aurangzeb and was driven out of Pune. But he did not stay defeated for long. He soon overthrew Khan and re-established his rule. In a few years, he had recovered most of his lost forts. In 1664, Shivaji set out the daring mission of conquering Surat, a fourth city of rich traditions and great wealth, which was controlled by Aurangzeb. He took over the city, and a furious Aurangzeb sent his general Jai Singh with a large army. After fighting for a long time, Shivaji surrendered and asked to see the Mughal ruler. At his court, Aurangzeb ordered Shivaji to be thrown in prison, but he cleverly managed to escape in an enormous basket of sweets that was being distributed to religious leaders and poor people in the society, in the city. After returning to Pune, he gathered his army, attacked Jai Singh's troops that were retreating from Surat and defeated them. During a short span after his return, Shivaji recaptured his forts and lands and re-established his kingdom. In 1674, Shivaji was crowned emperor of the Maratha Empire. He came to be known as Chhatrapati Shivaji, that means Lord of the Universe. The coronation was a grand affair with 11,000 Brahmins chanting the Vedas and 50,000 spectators watching awestruck. Magnificent gifts were given to holy men and poor. Aurangzeb continued to send troops against him, but Shivaji managed to expand the Maratha control throughout the Deccan. Mughal efforts to take out over the Deccan had failed repeatedly. Shivaji now had the power over a vast area. He attacked Mughal camps in Berar and Kandesh. He then sent off towards the south and conquered the forts at Vellore and Jinjis in Madras. His center of power and growth became the fort of Raigad. In fact, Raigad became Shivaji's capital city. Perched at the top of a hill that was split off from the western Ghats, the fort was virtually inaccessible from three sides. It is said that prizes were given to those who tried innovative methods to reach the top. Raigad was filled with splendid monuments and massive gates and was an architectural wonder. Shivaji ruled from the glorious Raigad fort for 6 years. It was a time of great prosperity and justice. He had the best interests of his people in mind. The farmers loved him. When they complained to Shivaji about the unjust zamindari system, he took away the land of the zamindars and distributed them among the peasants. Under his rule, the untouchables were given true justice. They were recruited in the army and also promoted. He also laid great emphasis on education. He ensured that the Sanskrit language was not lost. He had Persian words replaced with Sanskrit ones wherever possible. Religion too was given due importance. He encouraged the people who had been converted to Islam under Aurangzeb and were unhappy to reconvert into their old faith. He ensured that due respect is given to mosques, Muslim places of worship, and also to Muslim women. As a result, a large number of Muslims served in his army. Because of these qualities, Shivaji was able to instill the same passion for revolution against the Mughals in the mind of the people. He inspired the people so much that the Maratha Empire continued to fight the Mughal rule for 27 years after his death, despite the lack of proper leadership. In 1680, he took his last breath. He was succeeded by his son Radha Sambhaji, who was later captured and tortured and killed by Aurangzeb. Soon after, there was no central authority among the Marathas, but there were individual commanders or sardars who fought individual battles against the Mughals. For the next for the next 20 odd years, or for the next 20 years, Aurangzeb tried to quell the Maratha powers. After he died, the Marathas reunited under the leadership of Shahu, Shivaji's grandson. Shahu ruled as emperor till 1749. Shahu appointed a Peshwa, or Prime Minister, as head of government. After Shahu died, the Peshwas became the leader of the empire, while Shivaji's descendants remained nominal rulers from Satara. During the 18th century, the Marathas managed to keep the British out of India. But soon after, the Peshwas and Sardars had conflicting interests, and their peace fell apart. After the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761, the Peshwas lost control of the kingdom. Thereafter, many Sardars became king of the religion or of the regions. When the British entered India, most of the former Maratha Empire was merged into their own empire. The Marathas waged three fierce battles against the British. The result was the British annexed the territory that had been ruled by the Peshwas. Thus ended a great empire that had ruled major parts of central and southern India efficiently. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time in listening to me.